Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for one of those bigger Brawl News episodes where we try to predict the next update, get into when the next Brawl Talk is going to be coming, and concrete evidence that we have as to what the next collab might be and other content pertaining to the next update. So let's get into it. Detective Ray is here to play. I need the glasses, dude. Detective Ray, we here. So it's definitely been a while and I know this stuff is annoying, but of course, if you guys find this type of content useful, it really goes a long way if you'd consider subscribing. Can be kind of tricky to keep on top of what's been coming inside of the community, seeing that some stuff has changed with how the dev team likes to administer Easter eggs and all that good stuff. But when I can feel somewhat helpful to all you guys, it really helps out in that type of motivation. So of course, if you enjoy it, be sure to subscribe. As you can see, we have 82.1% not subscribed. Come on, bro. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys for all the support. You 17.9 are absolute legends. But let's get into the details. Ooh, tax day in there. That ain't fun. But to get the important stuff out of the way before we get into what is going to be coming in this next update, let's talk about the Brawl Talk date. There's been an ongoing schedule that the Brawl Stars dev team likes to stick with, and because of that, we can pinpoint it down really accurately. The next Brawl Talk to expect will be coming out on April 19th. So a little bit more than a week away, but it's coming up very fast. And I would like to also remind you all, based on new practices out there, we'll be getting some fun stuff a few days before that. On April 17th, we should have a fun trailer that will be telling us more about the next update. Somewhat of a newer practice, the dev team for the last two updates now have released little trailers that have stuff to do with the update, much like this one here, as well as, of course, the beginning of this ongoing trend, the fun animation that we had for the Buzz Lightyear update or the Toy Story collab. But then, of course, the schedule will continue as it always did with the crazy sneak peeks with the Brawl Talk thumbnail and all that good jazz one day before, which we'll be covering in its entirety. So make sure to stay tuned to the channel for all this good stuff for those 3 days coming up to the Brawl Talk and then the sneak peeks after. So now that we got somewhat of a timeline down, stuff that you guys can mark down on your calendar, what's going to be present in this next update and what sort of Easter eggs do we have right now that we can dive into? And we do have quite a bit, so let's get into it. As we've been doing for quite some time, we are referencing the roadmap that the dev team gave to us some time ago. And what we know of for this April update coming up is a really cool collab coming up where Frank says, can you guess what it's going to be and whatnot? And I believe we have some really good ideas as to what that collab is going to be. Not like crazy outlandish stuff like Minecraft or Sonic and stuff like that that I've been seeing in the community. I think what's coming makes a bit more sense given the Easter eggs that we can get into. Now, before we get into anything, I would love to give a huge shout out to Venya, Chosen, Dandy, and everyone else who helps make these videos possible. I am just one guy, even though I like to think that I'm pretty good at detective work inside the Brawl Stars community. It takes a lot of help as well, but we do it for you guys. We do it for you. First things first, getting into one of the Easter eggs people have come across. An ongoing practice that the dev team have been doing since 2023 has been giving us some sort of fun sneak peek with a profile icon, sometimes pins, but mostly profile icons that are pertaining to the very next update that was released in the update that we are currently in. Basically an unexplained profile icon. Now we have two of them, one of which I think is a bit more important than the other. Let's get the one that I think doesn't have as much legs as the other out of the way. Some people have been referring to this profile icon, the leak, potentially related to Hatsune Miku, which I don't know if that's going to do anything, but just kind of relaying what people are discussing inside the community. Speaking of other potential collabs I've been seeing tossed around a lot inside the community recently, there was Minecraft stuff, there's been like Sonic stuff. Minecraft I felt like had a little bit of potential, but if you take a look at their schedule, the content overview for Minecraft, there's a brand collaboration in Q1, which could have been, I guess, related to Brawl Stars, but then we have the release of that Minecraft movie, which is coming out or has already come out April 4th, but then the next brand collaboration is a ways away. So I don't think Minecraft makes a lot of sense, though I don't know, maybe in the future. I guess it's not completely off the table just yet, just looking at the timeline for Minecraft. But believe it or not, coming out of left field, the thing that I think makes the most sense is some sort of retelling of the Brawler Mutations and the Godzilla collab that we had last year. Now, I know it kind of sounds weird weird and it might not make a lot of sense, but I'll show the evidence that we have so far. Taking a look at this profile icon here entitled, right? No context. Now, it could be masked by some of the fun egg stuff that we got for April Fools. That's what I thought it was initially, but I think there might be a little bit more to this profile icon. Seeing that Godzilla has everything to do with like eggs, and the mutation mechanic that we had in last year's update had eggs to deal with it, I think it might be a reference to that, or could, as well as people have been drawing back to this little symbol in the bottom right hand corner of it, potentially being like a Godzilla foot or a paw, whatever you want to call it. Editor Ray cutting in here, looking at the fan kit. Something like this honestly looks very, very similar to that print or paw print potentially on that profile icon. Now, getting some of the other fun stuff out of the way before we get into the hard-hitting evidence. If you didn't know, the Godzilla collaboration that we had with the Mutations, we are coming up on its 1-year anniversary, as crazy as that sounds. Time moves fast in Brawl Stars nowadays, it feels like. But this was indeed the April update that we got last year, coming out on April 20th, one day off of this year's Brawl Talk, which is kind of crazy. It's just how the calendar works. I guess it's not that crazy. But people are drawing upon this being a potential link or example as to maybe Mutations coming back, and we can't argue with the fact that it was a pretty popular update. Maybe it was because it was one of the very first like big collabs that we had and a big community event that we all were kind of jiving with. But I think it's also funny to draw upon other examples that the dev team seemed to be like following a certain pattern here, where last year's update, the one that we just got done with, was having to deal with ranked, which we got another ranked update 1 year after that anniversary, and now we have potential Easter eggs about Mutations coming back, kind of falling in line with that schedule. Very interesting nonetheless, but getting into the hard-hitting evidence. Now, I wouldn't blame ya if you didn't notice, because I for sure didn't notice, and I have to thank everyone who pointed this out to me because I wouldn't have been able to come up with it. But believe it or not, in the last Brawl Talk, there was gameplay examples of Mutations in the Brawl Talk gameplay. Now, I don't know what it is, but it seems like whenever we get footage from the Brawl Talk, or maybe like community Easter eggs with Brawl Talk footage coming from the dev team, it seems like they have like a build that's like not the dev build, but a future version of it, stuff that they are working on personally that obviously the creators don't have access to, an advanced dev build, you might say. Seeing like hypercharges that were unreleased and all that good jazz. We've talked about that a lot here on the channel, but this time around it's a little bit strange because we're seeing certain mutations, and we'll get into the 3 examples that at least I was able to see here in the Brawl Talk, starting off at the 6-minute and 43-second mark, where we see some footage with Frank here. The very first example or eye opener here is the fact that he has 16,000 HP, which is a bit more than usual. And if you take a look after his super, he uses a basic attack here and it destroys some of the environment on the right side, which of course is not a mechanic that Frank has, but it was his Mutations mechanic. Taking a look at the verbiage of Frank's mutation here, Frank is faster, has more health, and his hammer hits break walls. So lining up with what we were seeing in that gameplay. Getting into the next example here, around the 7 minutes and 11-second mark, we can see some gameplay with Colonel Ruffs that it seems like he also has his mutation active during this gameplay. As you can see here, with one of his basic attack, he shoots off 3 shots. And I know it's been a year, but I remember the carnage of Rico's bounce shots and Ruff's bounce shots to remember this mutation, bro. But we can see it there, and I believe there's another towards the end here where we can just barely see 3 shots coming off right there on the Shelly as well. And if we need a reminder again of Ruff's mutation, it is Ruff's double barrel laser bounces longer and adds 1 additional projectile, of course what we are seeing in that gameplay. And the final one here, and there could be more, but one that kind of popped out a bit more if there are others hidden, is this gameplay from Janet here. As she goes up into her super, she drops her bombs way faster than normal, and there's no hypercharge attached to it. She's not in the hypercharge or anything, but she drops the bombs wicked fast, as you can see here, dropping them like crazy, which is exactly what her mutation was. If we need a reminder, yet again, Janet drops way more bombs during her super, and she has increased supercharge. Really compelling stuff if you ask me, and I do just want to throw out there, just because we're seeing gameplay footage of it doesn't mean it's 100% going to be coming out, but just taking a look at past examples examples of those hypercharges and the gameplay that we saw of them, later finding out that they were then released at a later update. I think it's important to take note of, right? It's pretty rare to see mutations come back a year later in gameplay that the dev team is utilizing here, and I got a feeling that they're doing this on purpose for like fun Easter eggs and sneak peeks for people to draw upon. So yeah, you guys will have to let me know what you're thinking about all of that. I think we have 2 significant sneak peeks or Easter eggs pertaining to a potential comeback of Godzilla or the mutations, maybe a rebranding of some sort, but that is the evidence that we have supporting that as of right now. But getting into potentially a little bit more outlandish speculation, but might make sense with a potential. I think some of the fun of new Brawler releases is trying to pinpoint what their rarity might be, and some of the fun stuff that we've been able to go off of in the past is the dev team likes to stay on a schedule with legendary Brawler releases. Beforehand, way back in the day, it was 1 per year. But things changed a little bit this last year, seeing that we got 2, right? We ended up getting Draco, believe it or not, in the mutation update 1 year ago, coming up on that anniversary, and then 6 months later during the SpongeBob update, we ended up getting Kenji, the 2nd legendary Brawler, coming out this year, and it was a big surprise seeing that it was somewhat of a first. Shouldn't say somewhat, it was. Now again, this is loose, seeing that this is the very first time we've seen the dev team release 2 legendary Brawlers in a year, but just pointing out that each legendary Brawler was released 6 months apart. We might have a potential schedule change of every 6 months a legendary Brawler. Can't confirm that, just going based off what has been happening, but this next update will be that like 6-month anniversary past Kenji, so lining up with Draco's anniversary. So maybe one of the new Brawlers coming out in this update could be a legendary. It makes sense if the schedule is consistent, even though we have one example of it. But as for those things, I would say those are the big hitters that I wanted to get into in this update. As for other, I would say pretty much so confirmed content coming out in the update that we can expect is, I would say, 12 new hypercharges. In that roadmap that we referred to in the beginning of the video, the dev team in that had said that they wanted to get all the hypercharges on every single Brawler completed before the June update, or once the June update arrives. Last update, we ended up getting 12, of course. And since I believe we are 2 updates off of that June update, including this next one coming out, we have a grand total of 23 Brawlers in the game right now that do not have a hypercharge. That timeline matches up really, really nicely if we do get 12 hypercharges each update into that June update, where they want every Brawler to have a hypercharge, and then even the newest released Brawlers will have a hypercharge upon release. As to what Brawlers are getting them, it's kind of your guess, kind of a coin flip, seeing that we have 23, half of that, around half of that, so half of the cast in the game that don't have them are going to get them. So the guess, I guess, is pretty easy to do. It's 50-50, but we do know of a few that I don't know if they got leaked on purpose or whatnot, but we had that Pam, our boy Gus over here, as well as Lily having that coming soon with no other further context about it. So I would guess these 3 are a part of the 12. If we are getting 12, I would assume we are, but then we have, of course, 9 others to account for. So we'll have to wait and see what that's going to shape up to be. Either way, I'm excited to have every Brawler eventually having a hypercharge. I feel like that's kind of the pushback that we have in pro gameplay, where there's some Brawlers that you just can't use because they don't have a hypercharge. And if that's like the power creep, the limit where every Brawler should have a hypercharge, so things kind of balance out, even though they're kind of OP, each person should have a hypercharge in that buff. So looking forward to that. And I guess the final thing that we can point out, which is present during like almost every single update, is I'm guessing balance changes are going to be coming out to some degree. Our last list of balance changes was insane. A lot of tweaks to gadgets and hypercharges and whatnot. So I'm guessing they're going to use that as an avenue to tweak Brawlers out there a little bit more effectively in these balance changes moving forward. So assume balance changes will be coming as well. But after that, that's pretty much so all the speculation and Easter eggs that we have as of right now, or that I know of as of right now. But as we're leading closer and closer to that April 17th, where we get that animation showcasing a little bit more about the update, and then 18th with a sneak peek of the Brawl Talk thumbnail and all that good stuff, I'll be sure to let you know if we get any more information. But yeah, I hope this was helpful, a little bit exciting. If you guys enjoyed Mutations, there's a high chance that they're coming back, and very excited to see what they do with that. The ranked update was hype as heck, but I think it kind of targeted a like smaller demographic than just the overall game that we normally have with these cool collabs and stuff like that. So things have kind of slowed down a little bit in Brawl Stars. So believe it or not, and it sounds strange, like really looking forward to some sort of fun community event, and maybe that might be Mutations. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys here in this episode today. Let me know what you're thinking, and again, I'll keep you guys in the loop if we find out anything more. Subscribe up, and we'll be talking super soon. Adios, take care.